There we are. What's up,
Okay.
guys? We're live. We're live. Can you hear us now? Hopefully you
Can you hear us
can.
now?
I'd be like the Sprint slash Verizon guy. There we go. Beautiful. Awesome to have all of you guys back again. This is exciting for me. I don't know. It's like being at like a party, you know what I mean? 'Cause there's like a bunch of us here hanging out, chatting, talking, interacting as best we can. And who would have thought that, this would have been like a big kind of party thing that we would have been doing. I mean, I guess I kind of thought about doing it before, but I just never had the time. So now I have the time and the place, and it's cool, and I'm enjoying it. So I'm loving hanging out with you guys, and Julia sometimes as well.
Hmm.
No, I'm just kidding. And I
Great.
and I, I don't know what you think of the new view. If you like it, you can actually kind of see my face instead of just the side of my head, which is probably a better view of me anyway.
And I see Bubble Bobble.
Yeah, you can see Bubble Bobbled in the back.
Sweet.
The yellow arrow thing on the game intro. Ah, yes, it was. There it is. You can see it kind of. If you're on a phone, it might be tough to see, but yeah, that's my logo. I got all kinds of logo stuff here. Somewhere I had shirts and hats too, but I think those are pretty much gone, except for the ones in my personal stuff. Robert, I'll send you a sticker for sure. Yeah, these are my prized possessions. And that's Rick is a buddy of mine, one of my guys that I work with at the school that I teach at, and we've been making some good music together. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, this is probably the I would say the gems of the collection behind me. There's some other good ones over on another shelf, but these are some of the better ones. I've got the obligatory John Romero shelf. I have the obligatory Brenda Romero shelf. I have a few other games here that I just enjoy. Above me is a bunch of stuff that John signed when I met him. So Julia might start drawing on my face. The upside for me is that she's really far away. In fact, probably there's plenty of you guys watching that are a lot closer than she is. She's in Toronto and I am in New York. So it's a little bit of a hike. So, but let's get started. So today we wanted to do some cool stuff. If you don't, first of all, let's introduce ourselves. If you don't know who we are, which you probably do, I'm Dan Policar. I'm composing some music for Julia, who is here with me, and her video game entitled The Crimson Diamond, which you probably do know if you're here, but if you don't, cool. We're glad to have you if you don't. And it's an EGA text parser that will be coming out when it's finished,
Yep,
right? That's the release date.
that is the release date.
Nice, which is a good release date. Uh-oh. What did they say? An EGA demake of Dan.
Yeah, portrait. Ha ha ha.
I don't know about that. I think the logo's good enough. I would probably break EGA if she did that. So we'll skip that part. So anyway, today what we're gonna do is I wanted to talk some about the music and specifically the themes. So and how I kind of thought and conceived of the themes for the two the two little pieces that are in the game so far that you can hear and play in the demo. And the demo is available where? It's available on Itch.io. They changed the way they pronounce it, right? Itch.io.
I heard someone say itch.io. I call it itch.io. But I say GOG or GOG. I don't remember which one I say, but it's one of those things. People get it, whichever one you say.
Yeah, so it's on Itch.io, itch.io, and
Both
it's
of those.
also it's also on Steam. It's on GOG.
Yes.
It's not on GOG, right?
No.
Is it not?
No. Now I'm
Not
confusing people.
not
No, it's
yet.
not.
We'll work on that.
Yeah.
Uh, the title track is a banger. Does the track have a name? Yes. Right now it's named the Crimson Diamond Theme. That was very creative.
Yeah.
But
Dan also sucks at naming things, just like I do.
oh man, my name's oof. You don't want to see them.
Really?
Yeah, they're bad. A lot of times, what I do, so I've been creating music for a long, 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 long time. But as long as I've been using like a DAW, which is like a digital audio workstation, which is how most guys make music these days. Ah, there's Nightbot. Thank you, Nightbot. I appreciate you. And I think those are my socials, but it would be nice if you could put up my the links to the games. Anyway, that's cool. So, yeah, the DAWs I've been working on probably for like 15 years or so, and the process that I go through to make tracks on it, I've made probably, I don't know, 2,000 or more tracks on there. And basically, what I started doing in 2008 or 9, I just started naming tracks because I didn't. In Pro Tools, it makes you name the track first. In Logic, you get the luxury of being able to name the track after. So, whatever.
What do you name them?
Well, so my naming system, it basically came from a manager that I was working with at one point. And the naming system is use a number, use the year, use the BPM, which is the tempo, BPM beats per minute, how fast it is, and then my name or my initials, DTB, which aren't
So,
really my initials, but my initials for my production.
so for example, a track that you would have would be called.
Probably 2000. It might be something like 1 or DTB dash 1 dash 88 dash 2019. That would be the first beat that I made in 2019, and it's 88 beats per minute. So
And is it useful to name stuff like that? Can you go back and remember?
So yes, because it does both. It causes problems also. It's helpful in that it gives me a specific of where to find it on Pro Tools, but the problem is if the track gets picked up by an artist or it's used for something, then it gets renamed, and then I have no clue. So then what happens, I still have to work out my exact filing system, but then what happens is I start using like a different naming system. It just gets really complicated, and I have to start searching by date and all kinds of. Somebody in the chat will help me out. They can give me better organization systems.
So they're not linked to these two names.
What do you mean? Like, oh no.
DT
no.
whatever 2020
Nope.
88 is not going to be Beyonce's Halo. It's not connected in a database somewhere.
No, and one day I'll play Beyonce's Halo, I think. But the problem is
every time.
The problem is I don't know if they'll allow it. They could shut down the stream if I do that.
Even an MP32 ish.
Well, no. If I did a demake of it, I guess I could do something like that. Should I do that? I should do that, right?
No, pick a better song.
What the hell key is this in? Can you hear that or not really?
I can hear it. I don't know if they can hear it. Can you hear Halo? I will ask the chat. Oh, help. Okay, they can hear it.
Hold on, let me get a better view so they can see.
They say it's Aziza says it's low.
It is
which
low.
Suits me. Yeah.
Julia's a Halo hater.
I don't know. I just don't think it's anything. I don't think it's awful. I just don't care about it too much, That's all.
That's a little louder. These are all the wrong sounds for this, by the way.
Good.
So I thought you were gonna sing.
I was thinking about it, and I was thinking about why I don't like the song, because that sounds not bad. But what I don't like about it is the lyrics. I feel like
Oh man,
if
I
it
love it.
had been written differently, I might like it better because
Gosh.
the hello, hello, I just it's awful
But
sounding. That part sounds
I
terrible.
think that's why it's written that way, you know? Oh, they
Aw.
can see it better now.
That sounds good, but when she gets in there with her, you know,
So I played this for my class on Monday night yesterday.
every opportunity, like I said.
Yeah, and I played the original version, which is the demo by Ryan Tedder, and then I played the Beyonce version. And for me, the Beyonce version doesn't move me the same way as the Ryan Tedder version, but some of my students felt the opposite. Some of them loved it. So I
Yeah,
don't
I
know.
agree. Like I think the Ryan, what's his name?
Ryan Tedder.
Ryan Tedder. I think his version. I told you this is better because when he sings the Halo, Halo, Halo part, it sounds more like wistful and breathy, and it's not as like Beyonce really hits them like every single time.
Yeah.
It's like pounding your head
Yeah.
with So that's not what I like. I don't like that part.
Well, Beyonce is definitely an artist that I respect, but at the same time, not necessarily my favorite artist on the planet.
Hmm.
But I mean, she's unbelievable. She's kind of the powerhouse, whatever. I don't know. She's like the powerhouse female, and maybe not even female artist, maybe powerhouse artist on the planet, you know? Not too many can really mess with her, female or male. So there's something to be said about that, but that's a lot for another stream.
Another stream, the Beyonce stream
But
that's gonna happen.
Eden Wraith said, but Halo is the game where you run around a giant space donut. That's my understanding of the game. Yes, different Halo. Different Halo, different Halo. Yeah, that's kind of funny. Roberta says it sounds better on the Roland. Yeah, you know, Anna, I like Beyonce, but I like her. I respect her as an artist, as a entertainer, as a person, all these things. She just doesn't move me particularly. So it's not like I hate on her or anything. She just doesn't. It's not the top artist I would pick as somebody that I want to hear singing. You know, female, male, it doesn't really matter. Yeah,
Yeah,
what if she
I
was?
don't mind. It doesn't. I don't really hate Beyonce's music or anything, but I only hate that one song, the Single Lady song, which is the worst song in my. It's a nightmare song.
Really?
Yeah.
See, now I like the lyrics of both of them. I think they're really,
Do you
really, really cool.
really?
Yeah, really
Oh man,
amazing.
I'm so disappointed right now.
Really amazing. See, I don't even know why I'm working on this game, to be honest, because
It's
clearly
over
we
now.
don't have musical tastes anywhere close to the same.
No. Single ladies for real?
No, but you know what? I'm gonna play a couple of things right now, and let's see here. I wanted to kind of share some themes, and because this is the point of what we're doing today. Let's go back here. The point of what we're doing today is kind of like share some themes, and then also talk about them, and then maybe play a little bit of the themes that are in the Crimson Diamond, um, and you know, kind of explain the process. So I like this. What does it say? We have some of her songs in the Ladies' Night Mix just because I don't care for. All the Single Ladies is the perfect song for single ladies at the wedding to catch the bouquet, which, by the way, they've stopped doing. They don't do that anymore. I don't know why. Maybe about 7, 8 years ago, they just stopped doing the bouquet throw.
Just
Oddly enough, they don't. It's not really a
every
wedding tradition anymore.
no?
No,
I thought you were
weird.
gonna say it's a COVID thing, but
No, 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 no. Well, weddings aren't a tradition anymore, but that's a different
that's
story
true.
entirely.
Okay, I'm
So
reading
yeah,
back on chat here. So the deluxe talk says he's with me. No thanks on single ladies.
yeah. Well,
Then we also have Sam Taki says lots of not like Queen Bee. True. No. DJ Mega Hammer says single ladies makes me feel like I'm in a fever dream. And I just okay, I was working in a mall at the time when that was playing a lot, and you just can't go anywhere when you're working in a store like that, and it comes on and you just want to die.
what were you doing in the mall? Can you tell? Can you share?
Oh no, well, I was working just at a clothing store.
Oh, okay.
You
Okay.
know, so it had, of course, it had your Rihanna. What's that song she did?
Umbrella?
SOS.
Oh,
You got your
SOS.
Chasing Pavements. You got
That's
your.
Adele. Yep.
It was a certain era, right? It's got your single ladies. You got your
Yeah. All that stuff's great. What are you talking about?
Some of it's okay. Like I like Adele.
Adele's amazing.
Adele's amazing.
Deluxe Tux worked at Macy's too.
Yeah. Yeah,
Roberta
you get
says
real
on
used to the
repeat.
music.
That I guess that would make me hate it too, because I never had a job where they played music over and over and over again. So check this out. I worked at a record publishing what I guess it was the music publishing company, EMI Music Publishing, which I don't think is around now. I think they were bought out by somebody else. But I remember working there, and you know how you'd think like you're in the music building, you're on 8th Avenue. And it was a temp job. I was only there for a couple of days. But they played no music. Like
Weird.
nothing. No music was played there.
I love it actually.
And the only other places I worked, I guess you could say that music was played there, but I was like teaching, lessons, music lessons for a long, long, long time. I still kind of am. So the only music that gets played is the music for the lessons. It's not like we can play music in the background, really,
Mm-hmm.
or music that I'm sharing with students or whatever to, give examples of things. So, oh yeah, gosh, if you worked in retail during Christmas time, oh, I feel sorry for you.
I will say though, there was one sing. Okay, first of all, Beyonce's "Little Drummer Boy" I also hate, but there was one song they played during Christmas time when I was working at the clothing store that I actually really liked, and it was "Don't Shoot Me, Santa" by the Killers.
Don't shoot me, Santa. I'm not familiar with that one.
Oh, it's so good. No, that was the only one I liked. I really grooved to it.
Teenage clothing store in high school, Moulin Rouge. Yeah, they just kind of went in too hard on that one. Wait a second. Bill says, I caught the garter at a wedding once. It was a video game wedding. The bride's two garters were embroidered. It's dangerous to go alone. And and the thrown out one that I caught said, take this. Wow. That's
The
crazy.
garter. I've only really been to only a couple weddings, and they didn't do the garter. Do they do the garter, Dan?
That
Still?
that was stopped even before the bouquet stopped.
Hmm.
But you know what I feel like it was a groom thing and a bride thing, and it's kind of like the industry's become even more um, over the top, as it were.
Hmm.
At least for those that are spending crazy money, which I don't think you can't do a wedding really here without spending crazy money. Not by
Hmm.
me. My husband did the garter. We have a funny pic of him removing him. Yeah, see. Oh, Bill, I knew the quote. I knew it was the sword quote from the old man that gives you the sword. But yeah, I haven't seen it in a long time. I've only seen the garter a handful of times, I think. Furoy says I never listen to pop. It's industrial or EBM. What's EBM? Did you mean EDM? I'm not sure what EBM is. I know industrial. I started with Trent Reznor and Nine Inch Nails and all those guys, and I still. Speaking of which, I'll share an interesting Trent Reznor story later if it gets to that. So, did you see this last one? So, Julia, you're gonna tell us why you dislike
I feel
Beyonce's
so
music so much?
self-conscious because I know Sam Tacky is your music engineer for when you work with Sean Paul,
He might be.
and so I I feel really embarrassed even talking about this, but I don't know. They just I'm with Dan. Like she doesn't move me when she sings. It's very glossy, and I don't know. It doesn't. Yeah, I can't really dissect why she doesn't move me particularly. She's a great singer, great performer, but it's just not for me, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of I guess that's kind of similar to the way I feel. But I mean, you can't. Somebody that's spent so much time in this industry where I've spent I don't even know how many years, over 10 years doing pop or hip hop shows. You can't not respect somebody like that. So
Oh
yeah,
my
there you
gosh, yeah.
go.
Sam was just saying, how about someone that's worked with her?
So
Well,
he's
how do you
worked with
feel
her.
now? I know, I feel bad. I'm sure she's a wonderful person, etc. But just for instance, that single lady song, I don't know, I have an issue with when there's certain kinds of phrasing and then the way the song goes, the notes
Well,
and the
she didn't write
phrasing.
it.
What's that?
She didn't write the song.
Okay, well, I don't know. The way she performs it, just like with Halo, like that other guy
Yeah.
performs it, and then she performs it, and the way she
Well,
performs
she
it.
didn't write Halo either.
Well, no, but the way she performs it is the
Oh
part
yeah,
that I don't like about that song.
interesting.
So with the single ladies, I just don't like that kind of sound.
Hmm.
It's really annoying to me, and I don't think it's had anything to do with her personally, but just her decision on how she performed it. This is now the Beyonce live stream chat.
she took she
Oh,
hijacked
Amiga
it.
Bill is here.
Amiga Bill,
I,
sweet
I I came to your stream the other day, Amiga Bill, with the Amiga Cam and Amiga Bill that you
dude.
had. That was kind of awesome. Good to see you.
He. So if anybody doesn't know Amiga Bill, they should follow him, watch his channel. He's awesome, dude. I've met him in person, and I was a fan of his before I met him in person, but now I'm extra a fan of his. But he does all Amiga streams every Sunday. I'm not sure exactly what time, Bill, but I know you do streams every Sunday. Amiga stuff for a solid amount of time, and it's pretty cool. And this past Sunday, he was doing stuff with like he had a tube video camera, 2 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time.
Yes, yes, it
Cool.
was crazy.
He had a tube camera, and I was like, "What the hell is a tube camera?" And I still am not sure that I know exactly, but he was saying something about how the light is sensed in different cameras. I don't know anything about it, but it was really cool. And he talks Amiga and new stuff that's happening with Amiga. He does old stuff. We played some cool Amiga stuff last week. We're not going to do any Amiga today, but speaking of which, let's get into what we wanted to do today because I wanted to play some music. Uh-oh. Who did this in EJD? Oh my god, this is amazing. Oh, that's
Let's see.
hilarious. I don't know if
Oh, that's
anybody can see
great.
this.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, how do I download this? Can somebody private message that to me or something? Yeah. Okay, Amiga Bill says it uses a vacuum tube to see the world instead of a CCD or CMOS chip like a modern camera. I still don't know what you're talking about, brother, but I believe you.
And apparently it smells like burning because that's what he was saying. When he was on, it gets really
Furroy
hot.
Furroy was on Amiga Bill show with his adventure game not long ago. Awesome. Yeah. I mean,
Oh,
he's
oh,
a great dude and he's playing games and he's really passionate about the subject. And I met him at the Long Island Retro Gaming Expo, which is an expo that hopefully will take place this year, but if it doesn't take place physically, it'll take place virtually. That I'm in charge of the PC gaming area there, and he got to come see it. It was awesome. It's at a amazing like museum. It's called the Cradle of Aviation. So when you walk in the front door, there's a blue angel hanging over you. If you don't know what a blue angel is, I think it's an F-18 Hornet plane. It's really awesome. There's a lunar lander in there somewhere that actually I think it's a real lunar lander that landed on the moon.
not
I
the
don't know.
game Lunar Lander.
No, an actual giant
Okay.
thing. It's in the museum. It's pretty cool. Anyway, if you're in this area in where are we? Beginning of August, or if it's not happening in the beginning of August physically, then it will definitely be happening online, and maybe we can do some cool game stuff there.
Okay, well, Dan, it's 8:33 now, so I think we should like get down to talking to be about
We should
Beyonce
talk.
again.
You're right about that. All right, so I wanted to just take a couple of themes and show you guys. Yeah, Bill, me too, man. My fingers are crossed. So I wanted to take and just show you guys a couple of themes that I just really like. So the first one, I'm just gonna play you the first one. You guys will know it when it plays. Okay, and I'm gonna share this. Yes, hold on. Give me 1 second. Let me fix that. Can you hear us now? You should be able to hear us now. Sorry about that. I'll play this again from the beginning because now the game is given away, but that's all right. You can hear it? Okay, beautiful. So now you should be able to hear this.
Yes.
Great.
Your verification.
So that little theme right there was important because it's foreshadowing. This is just, I had to play this game this way to get to this other part. Okay, that's it. And so, really cool thing happened that I don't know if you guys caught. So, this is not the MT32 version. At least I don't think. I think it's the GM version, General MIDI, because MT32 was still a thing at this time, but General MIDI got the sound better. And I prefer this version. There's also another version of this song which I didn't show. It's a CD-ROM version, so they actually record it and they have like lyrics and stuff, but it wasn't my I was not a huge fan of the lyrics of this particular one. So let's see. Let's go back to that. There we go. So yeah, it's cool, but it is what it is. So yeah, this is the general MIDI. Yeah, Robert, the lyrics. Yes, there is also an NES version, but I'm not even gonna worry about that one right now because I don't think that one looks particularly attractive or sounds particularly attractive. I mean, it's
Francisco
impressive.
has it.
He does, right? I have
Yeah.
I have a physical copy of it.
Oh.
I have to have that. I can't not have that.
Well, huh.
I'll go get it during the next break. But I love, so let me show you what happened here. And I didn't want to even show this screen because there's CGG people here and this screen is like the bane of my existence now.
Oh no.
Yes, we won't say it. It won't be, doesn't need to be said. Okay, did you catch that? Anybody catch that theme? So listen to that again, right? Yeah, it's you could call it a leitmotif, I think. Bill. So Bill said, "I wish they'd used a real harp instead of guitar of the for the song played in the CE version." Well, that's an interesting question, right? So I suspect that I believe there was two composers on this game, but I suspect that this was a Mark Siebert theme because when it was played on guitar, I'm not sure that was him playing guitar, but I assume it was written on guitar. Because if you look at some of the stuff he does, he's probably my favorite Sierra composer, even though I think a lot of people tend to note other ones because he was doing a lot of the programming and stuff. But to me, he's written the two games that I love the most, and the sounds, the themes that I love the most. This is actually probably my favorite Sierra game song. Is this this Weeping Willow theme. So what they did before is let's. Yeah, so what they did here is they foreshadowed the theme. So what did Bill say? He said something foreshadowing. Yeah, leitmotif is probably what you'd call it. Yeah, so Ken Allen was the other composer, but I would bet that that theme was Mark Siebert. So okay. So they played it in a different key. So then when you get to this part, that was an A minor, for any music nerds like myself. And then when you get to this part, we're in E minor. So what did he say? I thought there were two end phrases with the minor, then the diminished. I don't think there's a diminished chord in this. I would call it a dominant.
DJ Megahammer says the voicing is very guitar friendly to play. I'd say that's a good guess.
Yeah, that and I've been communicating with Mark via email a little bit. I'm trying to, nicely twist his arm into, showing me some stuff. But it's cool. Either way, if he does, I'm just grateful that he even responded to my email because it's really, really cool of him. And he's actually, if you go to his website, he's got some scores up, which is pretty cool. Yeah, Ken would be awesome to speak with too. So it's hard to tell sometimes what the exact chords are, like if you fill them all out piano voicing wise, because I don't know, you can't really see it too well. I'm getting a new view hopefully soon of the top down of the keys. But
yeah, explain what voicing is, Dan, because I have no idea what that is.
So you can play like a chord, right? Yeah, I don't want to speak too crazy into it. Amiga Bill said, did you use the Amiga or Atari ST for MIDI back in the day? No, but the Amiga, when I played the Amiga Defender of the Crown and Fairy Tale Adventure, that's what kind of probably sparked my real interest for music, computer music at all in the first place, because it was so far ahead of what was on the PC. I was used to hearing PC speaker, which is cool. And I would love to compose for it one day, but like when I'm old, because it's so tedious and so difficult, I've started to look into it. I'm like, okay, nope, thanks. I'm going to stop and just, if I thought the MT32 was bad, it's much worse on the PC speaker. You have to program
Really?
it. Yeah, because you can't,
Oh,
using a keyboard isn't really a possibility, at least not that what I've seen where you're actually programming the sound. You could sequence, but you can't really program. So voicing is basically like you take something simple like a C major chord or a C major triad, they would call it. And it consists of 3 notes. That's why they call it a triad: C, E, and G. I'm trying not to get too far ahead of people, but it'll get weird. If you play them right next to each other, it's one way of voicing it. If you spread them out, it's a different way of voicing it. That's all the same chord. You might know that song.
That's cool. All right. Today I learned.
I can't play that goddamn song. Anyway, so yeah, there's different ways to voice the chord. So sometimes what happens on a guitar, they might only play a couple of the notes from the voicing. So it's difficult to tell because somebody said it was a diminished chord. Potentially always called inversions. Yeah, it's called an inversion, but that's the very technical way. So the way of voicing it, it gets really complex because you could start to say it's like, okay, the voicing is really which voice in the chord you're bringing out the loudest, but it also has to do with how you're choosing to play the chord. So I guess a chord voicing would be more technical. It gets really weird. So when I use the term voicing, it really goes back to like medieval music or before, where they were literally talking about voices. So what they started with was something like soprano, alto, tenor, bass, the highest singing female voice, alto being the lower singing female voice, tenor being the higher singing male voice, and bass being the lower singing male voice. It's yeah, it was a dominant chord. Okay, it's not really a chord versus an arpeggio. That's something different. That's like harmonic versus melodic playing. We're not there yet, but yeah, it gets really really hairy. And eventually, maybe in my streams, I'll do some of that stuff. But for the sake of all of us here, let's not do that. Um, it can get a little crazy. So if you're, by the way, if you're just joining us, we're doing some music here for an awesome game. I'm Dan Policar, the composer of this game that's being made by Julia Minamata, who's here with me, the Crimson Diamond EGA text parser, coming out when it's ready. That's the official release date. I don't know if Julia wanted me sharing that, but I just dropped
Oh
it.
no, that's fine.
I just dropped it, so
Yeah, you heard it here first.
And so DJ Megahammer says a simple way to say, we're kind of getting into music nerd land, but a simple way to say it might be it fits nicely to the chord shapes that work naturally on a guitar. So what he means by that is you'll take your hand, let's see if I can see this here. You'll take your hand on the guitar fretboard and certain things fit better under your hands than others. I don't have a guitar here handy, but it's the same thing on the keyboard where certain things work better musically on different instruments. And if you're writing, this gets really complicated when you start writing for orchestra or horns or things like that, and you're not just using synthesizers all the time. So even though this is a horn sound, it might be really, really difficult to actually write that for horns, and I have to kind of orchestrate it. Anyway, it gets very, very complex. So I'm gonna show the simplified version. So this is my first real like theme that I just love. It's like unbelievable, and I'm gonna skip now and show a couple more. The next one I'm gonna show is probably not from a super well-known game, but it's a game by a guy that often drops by our streams and is a good friend of ours. I think Julia actually kind of introduced me to him, Francisco Gonzalez. And it was Francisco and Ben Chandler also did the game.
Yep.
Is that right?
Oh, wait. Which game?
Shardlight.
Oh, yeah, Shardlight, yeah.
So this is the beginning opening of Shardlight, not including the dialogue and the voiceover, but the beginning of the game. I just thought it caught my ear so much. And this was published by Dave Gilbert. So like the circle is very small. You can see all three of those people, Julia, Francisco, and Dave, on a video of a panel that they did at PAX East. And Roberta and I were also there hanging out, so it was great. We had a great time. But I'm going to play this. Let's see here. Let's skip back over here. And there we go. That I cut the video at the loop point. Let's cut Whoops, let's come back here. So yeah, that's an example of kind of the opposite of what I just played. So there isn't really a singable melody there, but for me that just drew me into the atmosphere and the environment of the game, and I think it makes perfect sense. Whereas in a game like King's Quest V, that leitmotif where you have what do they play that, right? And then they go and so on and so forth. So this one would be actually really difficult for me to write something like that because it doesn't have a lot of singable and song-like melodies. So if you were to examine the two of these and say, well, which one are you drawing from? Well, first of all, I wrote that theme for Julia's game before I even ever heard this and played this. So obviously that wasn't an influence, but King's Quest V for certain was, for certain, because that theme stuck with me since the first time I played the game in whatever year, 1990, what year did that come out? 93, 94, something like that. Probably 93. Maybe even before that. Hold on, let's look. Oh, I don't have it on this shelf. It's on my other shelf. I'll bring it out. Yeah, some nice stuff. So let's see. Well, plus the KQ5 piece is about a character, so a voice makes sense. Yeah, it does. And I think that's probably a good example. So in Shardlight, I don't know if you. I'm not going to ruin the game, but it's very desolate. Like, well, desolate's the wrong word. It's a what dystopian future, I guess, or dystopian alternate reality, whatever. So the music fits that, right? The music kind of fits that, and I can't recommend playing Shardlight right now until this damn pandemic is over because it hits a little too close to home subject wise. So, but it's no, I can recommend it. It's awesome. The music is awesome, and I think for me that theme, just seeing that intro for the first time and hearing that music, I was drawn into as a player, drawn into the game, saying, "Wow, what the hell's going to happen?" Because I don't really know. I can't really sing this music, but wow, this is just doesn't matter. It's amazing, you know. So that's why I love Shardlight's intro and the music. I think the music throughout is just really, really well done. And the composer, I got to get the composer's name, but I think that's the only game that he's done with Wadjet or Francisco. So I gotta have to look that. Yeah, like these games just hit too close to home at the moment. Let's say Vampire, sure, 1914. Ugh, yeah, it gets crazy. The Dig, that's a good one too. KQ5 was 1990. Wow. So yeah, it was really early. So it was only 1 year removed from Lorbeau, Colonel's Bequest. It's crazy. So now, lastly, I'm going to play another song. This is actually not really just one theme. This is a full intro. And this is not an adventure game because I wanted to kind of move us out of just being in adventure land all the time because shockingly there are other types of games, even though most of us don't want to believe that, myself included. No, I've got a million types of games here, but yeah, I just wanted to give an example of amazing music and amazing video, and it's pretty cool. When you guys see this, you're gonna be, I think you'll be kind of mind blown. Look at all these people. Oh no, no adventure games. Ah. Anybody familiar with this? The PC Engine CD-ROM. It's this is from 1991. So I'm in the right era though. So I've got 1991, 1990, and then Shardlight is like 2016, I think, or 17.
Mm.
It's
Yeah, I
it's
think 16.
16. Yeah. But obviously it's modeled, at least the graphics are modeled after much earlier games. So, Retro Rental, yes. So this is gonna take a second. So I'm gonna go dig up my King's Quest V real quick, both of them, and I'll play this.
Oh, I didn't hear anything. Hope you guys hear something.
Yeah, this is an amazing intro. No audio?
It just takes a little to get going. When you just left, I expected the music to start after you got off the chair, but it took a while.
So that's theme 1. This is kind of theme 2, I guess. Yeah, serious slash chords, DJ Mega Hammer.
Ys, the ideal utopia. Once a country so peaceful and prosperous. A country where children were as free as the wind. A country where harmony blew through the hearts of all men. Ys, a kingdom ruled by the wisdom and charity of its 6 powerful priests. An empire watched over and blessed by the enchanting aura of its 2 beautiful goddesses. Ys, the seemingly tranquil paradise suddenly pulled from the height of its civilization to the empty abyss of infinite isolation. How could such a land of promise simply vanish from the face of the planet? How could such prosperity be forgotten? The legend has been silenced for over 700 years. And now, the mystery unfolds.
Boom. That's wow. So Anna just said the Korg T1. I think you're pretty close. I think it's the Korg T1, the M1. It's one of them. It's that intro to me is just that's how it's done. Now they've reissued this game so many times, and that's actually I want to say it's the second version of the game because the first version I think was for Sega Master System. Either Sega Master System or Turbo with the card, and they just didn't have the capability to make that kind of, CD soundtrack. So that's just like, I mean, that's to me, that's everything. And you really had like, they really went through the whole kind of, it was almost like a movie, right? It was almost like watching a movie to get to that intro, and then you reach the pinnacle point, or even like a trailer for the game, and you get to the point with the girl with the serious quarantine hair, Rapunzel, and it's just like, I don't know, man. That's called, okay, so the game is called, I think it's called Ys 1 and 2, or Ys I and II, Roman numeral. And that was for TurboGrafx CD or PC Engine CD, which I have here somewhere. Oh, and now let me show this. This is a pretty much about as mint as you can get copy of King's Quest V for NES, and you can see. Let's look at some of this glorious, glorious artwork.
Ooh.
You can't even really see it.
Is it for the
Whatever.
best?
Probably. I've never actually played it. Cedric is in the game, though. It would have been a challenge to port this game. So here's the proper version. This is the one that I know. And there's another cover. There's a really like ugly cover where it looks like Roberta Williams is reading the children's book or whatever. I
That's
think
the one
that's what
I
it's
have.
supposed to be. Yeah. This is actually on the back of this shows the 16 color and the 256 color. It might be interesting to take a look at the 16 color version of it. Is it not EGA though? Or is 16 color EGA?
It is. It is. It is. Some of it does look good, but in other parts of the game, what happens is if you just directly port over the color palette from VGA to EGA,
It doesn't work.
and you don't kind of touch it up after, it can kind of look a little messy in some places. Same thing happened in Space Quest 4, where it just
So that's why we kind of always look to Space Quest 3 for that kind of art.
yeah, and that's why you'll never see anyone celebrating the Space Quest 4 EGA art, because it was never really initially meant for that. If it had been, I think it would have looked really nice, or
Yeah.
if they had touched it up, but they probably didn't have any time.
Yeah. And I haven't played the NES one of this, King's Quest 5, or there's also another famous adventure game that got an NES port, which I have over there somewhere too. Maniac Mansion is on the NES. A lot of people
Yeah.
played it for the first time on the NES. And I'm sure that really drastically increased sales of that game because the NES sold a lot of copies. King's Quest V probably as well. I mean, I don't know. I mean, and it's interesting, like, who said this? Somebody said something about the system limitations. And yeah, there's a lot of system limitations. No, Monkey Island is not on the NES. Definitely not. Yeah, and Anna, the Maniac Mansion big box is really tough to find too. No, there's no port of Monkey Island. There's a couple of I guess you could call them adventure games. There's like the Uninvited, which is I don't know if it's an RPG or an adventure game. It's hard to tell. There's a few. There's a couple of them. But yeah, I think Maniac Mansion was a little bit better port than King's Quest V. There's also a King's Quest 1 port, if you've ever played that, and it's for the Sega Master System, which is not necessarily the best version either.
But okay, wait, that's a text parser game.
Yes, but it's not on the Master System. So there's two versions of King's Quest 1 also, right? There's an EGA remake, which well, I guess was still a text parser though, wasn't it?
I assume so. I never played
Yeah,
it.
I think it was. So there's at least three versions of that game. There's the original King's Quest 1, which is the graphic text adventure. Looks, like the little thing at the bottom. You can always see the parser always is on screen. And then there's the EGA remake, which looks better, I guess, but it types. I think the bubble pops up like Conquest of Camelot or something like that. And then there's the Sega Master System, which I guess you have to just click around with the worst controller ever made.
Excuse me though, but what about like the Rumpelstiltskin puzzle, things like that? What do you
Well, I
do
don't
for
know. I
those?
never played it, so yeah. The Master System control, the NES controller is one thing. The Master System controller is like it made it look like the NES, but was really, really awful. Have you ever tried to use one of those things? Oh gosh, your thumb will be done after like 5-10 minutes. Your thumb is finished and you can't get anything to properly register. It was like an evil controller. And the sad part is that system was superior in almost every way to the NES. It had superior graphics. It had an FM synthesizer built in some of the early models.
Yeah, I kind of get sad now when I see some people porting adventure games to Switch and how well they seem to be doing when they port to Switch, and I feel like I'm never going to be able to port the Crimson Diamond to Switch because it's a text parser game.
Yeah. Well,
Ah,
you could always
yeah.
port it, but it would have to be a new version or something else. So,
I don't even know how that would work. It would be completely a remade game.
well,
From the
that's what
ground
I
up.
mean. That's what happened with Quest for Glory 1, right?
Yeah,
They just remade it as a point and click. Oh yeah, the
it's true.
CDI. So I never played the CDI, but the CDI was rough, rough games, rough system. So anyway, so I just played you guys 3 different kind of themes, I guess. One is like a full orchestral exposition, although it's all synthesizer. One is kind of a abstract piano and guitar kind of ambient piece, I guess, but really well illustrates what's going on in the game. I think also the ease, even though I didn't show the game, illustrates really well what's going on in the game, or at least sets you up to be excited. Like if you don't watch that intro and be excited about playing the game or potentially even trying it out, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what else to do. There's not much else you can write. Like the composer's finished. I mean, if you don't want to play it after that, then I don't know. I don't know what you like, but that maybe you like Beyonce. So yeah. So and then the first one, which is the real most simple, but also for me the one that's stuck with me for since 1990. So how many years is that? 30 years. It's a long time, right? It stuck with me. That particular one theme stuck with me for that long. And there's been other games, like that's another one that stuck with me. Yep. Very good, Bill. QFG1. And that's also who composed that?
Was it Mark Siebert?
Yes, it was. Ooh, Hero U Rogue to Redemption will be ported to Switch finally. Wow, that's awesome. That's great. That's really cool. So, if you guys don't know about Hero U, that's a game by Corey and Lori Cole, or Lori and Corey Cole. I'm not sure how I'm supposed to, who gets top billing? Probably Lori. But Lori and Corey Cole, and they're the ones who wrote all the Quest for Glory series, which is my favorite Sierra game series. Lori, good, good. I figured. So my apologies, Lori and Corey Cole. Yeah, that's awesome. So they're working on new games. Hero U Rogue to Redemption is already out, but they're working on another new game, Hero U Summer Days at Hero U, and the composer of that game is my friend Brandon Bloom. And if it wasn't for Brandon, I probably would not be doing this game on MT32 at all, because he kind of walked me through a lot of the process of how to get started composing, because it's really difficult to use this box. I don't know if you can see it. Let's see if you can. No, you can't really see it. It's right behind my monitor. But yes, Brandon did the composition there. So anyway, let's go back and start looking at some of... Wait, it should be open already. It is open already. So this is hopefully instrumentated right with the correct instruments. This is the Dinner Waltz theme from the Crimson Diamond, which happens towards the end of the demo. So I'm not giving away any spoilers. If you play through the demo, there is a dinner scene. I won't tell you what happens, but there's a dinner scene where you eat dinner, and this theme plays during dinner.
Spoilers.
And how I mean, it's a decent sized cutscene, I guess.
Oh yeah, it's probably the longest one in the demo.
Other than the intro.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, yeah. Don't
The
count that
intro's
one.
long too. Yes, and Brandon, shout out Mage's Initiation, because it is underappreciated. I really liked the adventure game, and I really liked the music. I thought the music was really well done, and I've definitely told Brandon that a few times, because he's an awesome dude and he's been really helpful to me. So I'm gonna be anxious to see what he's working on. And I forgot to mention, so in addition to working on the Crimson Diamond, there's actually another video game that I've been working on the music for quite some time. The game is called Empire of Sin, and it will be ported to Switch. It's going to be PC,
Yay.
Mac, Switch, PS4, Xbox One. I think that's it. And that game is coming out sometime this year. At least that's the plan. There's some placeholder stuff up on like GameStop that I've seen. They've got PS4 artwork and stuff. And that game is kind of wild because it's made by Brenda and John Romero. And if you know either of them, John Romero is kind of famous for making a game called Doom, Wolfenstein, Quake, Commander Keen, Dangerous Dave, a million games. And Brenda is famous for, I would say, Wizardry, Jagged Alliance. She's also worked on some of the Def Jam. She worked on the Def Jam Icon and a few other games. But it's kind of surreal to be working with them. I don't think if it wasn't for those two, well, really Brenda, if it wasn't for her, I'm not working in games at all. I'm not even at this point sitting here with Julia, so I'm really grateful to both of them, but especially Brenda because she's encouraged me for like about the last 2 years to just, do this, work on it, do your thing. And it's been great. And Empire of Sin, I've been doing a lot of composing for that. So it's going to be awesome. I can't really talk about it. I can't play anything other than what stuff is already heard, but they're going to be live streaming in a couple of days. Paradox will be live streaming it. So I would bet that you're going to hear some music that I did in that game on their live stream. So I'll be hosting it on this channel, and it'll be pretty cool. It'll be pretty cool. So, yeah. You like that poster. Kobold Underlord says, I like that poster, Julia. It's pretty awesome. I don't think I got to see it in person. I just saw
No,
it
you wouldn't have. I did not bring it
to
to PAX
PAX.
East.
Yeah. You had it at Adventure
No.
X, right?
Yes, I lugged it all the way to London with like a 22-inch LCD monitor, hoping that neither would break. And they didn't, and then I lugged them back. And I kind of wanted to leave them both there, but I thought, you know what? I'm too cheap to leave them there. So now at every opportunity, I have it up.
Yeah, it's really nice. And obviously that, if you think about it, two ways, right? The poster looks amazing because the artwork looks amazing. And I think that's what drew me to the game in the first place. I was like, wait, what the hell is this? This artwork, holy crap, this is awesome. I mean, we can show it. Look, you see it on the, this will be probably next week's stream. This is just the painting pixels with Julia, Crimson Diamond, making the Crimson Diamond live. And we have something special to show everybody too at the end of this, which, geez, we're probably getting close to at this point anyway. But yeah, there we go. So let's play this. This is the Dinner Waltz theme. Hoping it's got the right sounds. Sounds right. Now in the game, you'll hear that loop in case, the scene keeps going or you aren't clicking through it so quickly. And then it'll loop back to the start because it's basically the best way to describe it is like in an AABA song form, I think. Even though the A sections are kind of changed as they go along. So yeah, thank you. Who said that? Somebody said something about the waltz. Who was that? Waltzes. Kobold Underlord said, "This is awesome. Waltzes are underused in games. They are underused in games, and it's funny that you said that." So I played this for another friend of mine, and he was like, "Ugh, you put a minor waltz in there. Ugh, everything is cool except for the minor waltz." And I still like him. He's still cool. But I think waltzes aren't used, and it makes sense in this game. Like, if you think about the time period of this game, which is roughly 1915-ish, 1914-ish, somewhere. Thank you, guys. You can kind of find freedom in the music that you can write because you want it to make sense still in the time period. So I'm not going to be writing like a bunch of dance hall stuff or hip hop stuff or rock because none of that had been invented or even close to. But you can find freedom there. So why wouldn't a waltz fit? And to me, like, you know what really sold the waltz to me in my head because I compose a lot of this music in my head before I think about actually putting it down, was the dang, there's like a, I don't know what you call it. I'm not refined enough to know. There's like a service in the back of the room where the decanter is. I think it's like a whiskey or something, bourbon, whatever back there. And that, like, it just is like, I don't know. You ever hear the sound of a glass? Like if you make noise on a glass, you either put your finger around it and it rings and it's cool, or you just hit it with a spoon or something. And it makes this like clinky sound. I don't know. For whatever reason, that just got into my head and makes, yeah, cognac. I'm not refined enough, like I said. Yes, Canadian whiskey. That makes more sense. So what's that? What's the Canadian whiskey I used to drink? Not Canadian Club.
Canada Club?
No, not Canadian Club. The other one.
Crown Royal?
Crown Royal. Yeah, that's it. Yep. Nice one, Roberta. But yeah, that was kind of what gave me the idea. The other part of it was the harmony in the song, the Weeping Willow theme. This, in both the theme song and this Dinner Waltz, it just kind of influenced me. And it's not really the same harmony. It's not the same time signature. It just like really abstractly influences me, I guess. That's the way I think of it. Yeah, don't drink too much in this game. And don't drink too much in real life either. Bill says, I use those Crown Royal satchels to protect my lenses. Exactly. They're really nice. And it's really good good stuff back when I used to drink that stuff. But are you going to put in any one steps or slow drags? What do you mean by one steps or slow drags? No, don't eat any Jordan almonds. They're not edible anyway. You talked about this last week, didn't you, in the stream? So there's Jordan almonds in the game. If you don't know, if you're just joining and you don't know, we're talking about music for Julia's game, The Crimson Diamond. I'm Dan Policar, the composer for the game, with the game developer, designer, lead programmer, backup programmer, lead tech, creative director, janitor, everything, cheerleader, all of these things. Julia Minamata. And we're just talking a little bit about some of the themes that are in the demo of the game, which you can find on Steam, The Crimson Diamond, and you can find on itch.io or itch.io, however you choose to pronounce it. Feel free. You can find the game there, the demo, and you can play it, and you can hear these songs and these themes. So that's pretty cool. This is eating and read D&D dice. Yeah. Clearly we need edible, usable D&D. Usable? Oof. I don't know.
Well, more uses for the Crown Royal pouches. People say you put your D&D dice in them.
Ah, gotcha. gummy D&D dice. I don't know. That's gonna get a little. I don't know.
Bill Coon says there's a mouse pointer on my head, Dan, and I noticed that on one of our previous
Yeah, let
streams,
me
like
put
you
it
had it
right
right
there.
in the middle of my face.
I'm fixing it so it's right
Um,
in the middle of your face now. Sorry.
Thank you. That's where we want it, right there.
We'll fix that. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, it's just for me, it's really abstract the way I put this stuff together. And the beautiful thing is, for me as a composer, an EGA text parser says a couple of things. Well, it says a lot actually. It says the graphics, typically kind of the era of it, but we're EGA text parser. We're at the tail end of EGA before it switched over to VGA. So we're the dithering. We've got stuff that actually looks like people instead of blocks, right? Like the blocky EGA, early EGA King's Quest games, where you can't really see Graham's face or anything like that. So yeah, I mean, text parser, we have to type, and it just this is my point. No VO. There's no voiceovers. There's no voice acting in a game like this. So it leaves me a lot of room to play stuff, to try things, and I don't have to worry about getting in the way of the dialogue because you're going to read the dialogue, right? You're not going to hear it spoken by a voice actor. So I apologize if you're a voice actor looking for a job in the game. There isn't one. But it leaves me a lot of freedom. So I actually like that kind of thing. You know, you don't have the option of, you don't have to worry about getting in the way of the dialogue or getting in the way of other things that are going to be focused on, like newer games, which have like a million sounds and a million sound effects and what is Adventure Game Studio is the software that Julie is building this game in. And what's the limitations of Adventure Game Studio with sound? I think it's 8 channels or something.
Yeah, something like that.
So it's not the same as MIDI. You can use more MIDI, but we're not going to be implementing MIDI on this because, one, it's well out of my wheelhouse as far as programming is concerned, because I don't really know how to program anything at all other than a synthesizer. But 2, it'll allow us more freedom. We can put in more music, we can put in more sounds, but we're still going to draw from the MT32 itself. So all the sound and the music, the plan is to make all of it come from the MT32 with just a slight bit of massage in terms of, maybe we'll be able to EQ things a little bit better and get you to hear the sound that you remembered as opposed to the sound that was actually there in the game. Because if you listen to some of these games, there's a lot of funny stuff going on. Who's Kobold Underlord? Home state of Washington? That's my home state. I'm not living there now, but that's where I'm from. I'm from Seattle, Washington. So, anyway. Now let's go and play, if we can, the other guy, the main theme from the Crimson Diamond. We can talk about that quickly. Save changes, yes, because I made a bunch of changes before we went on.
Did you?
Yeah, just because it was set up wrong.
Okay.
I didn't change the song. I just had to change routing and stuff like that. So let's see where it plays. Should start in a second. There we go. That's actually the end of it. Oh, now interesting. So here's the interesting part about that, right? That was probably the scratch of a B section in the intro because I originally intended this song to be really long.
Oh, ho, ho.
I think it's a
I
minute.
never heard that part before.
No. It's not an actual part of a song, but yeah.
I love that. I love that one. It's awesome.
Let's see. What were they saying here? I saw something in the chat. I don't want to miss it. Do not encourage Dan's bad hat choices. His current hat is much better. Okay, well, I'll take that as a compliment because I agree. I like the hat, but I still am a huge Seahawks fan. Yeah, the demo placeholder music. That's kind of funny. The tempo was fast, Bill. Interesting. So I kind of thought I had to slow it down, but the original placeholder music was really fast, right? That's the
Yes.
the little
Yes.
folk song.
Yeah, actually, I don't even know if I should even attempt to try to play it here. I don't know if that's a thing I can do. With,
You might not be able to on Discord. I'm not too sure. I keep leaving the mouse over your face. Sorry about that. Yeah.
Let's see. Because I do have it here, but I don't know if I can. If I share that window, will that work? Or
Not too sure.
why don't we find out real?
And all
Hold
the
on.
versions I have of the game are either the new one or.
Let's see, audio device. See, if I put it to headphones.
We might not hear it.
Okay,
So
speakers. I'll try speakers, and I'll take my headphone out, and I'll really pump up the volume and see what happens.
I like
and
this.
Then I'll share.
What DJ Megahammer says. He said, "Nice harmony moment on the melody in the B section.
Yes.
Very frontier." Well, that's kind of the intention because it's not. Well, it's not frontier. It's definitely wilderness. So we're taking place in. How far north are we in Ontario? Decently north.
Yeah, very. From Toronto, I'd say maybe like by train and driving like 10 to 12 hours. So
that's far.
Really far north, and it is kind of. It was a frontier town. Back in the day.
Okay.
So yeah, totally get the point. So let me see if I can play for you. Tell me, Dan, if you hear this or if anyone else hears this.
We do not.
Okay. Let me change the
we do see it.
Audio device. You do see it. Well,
yes.
That's the important. Not the.
No, we do not.
Nope.
Hear that. Nope.
Never mind.
That's
You just
right.
you know
we'll
what? I think it's still in the game trailer that I have on my YouTube channel. So
yeah, you could check it out. It's definitely in previous videos on YouTube and
yeah, so
other
it's
Let's
somewhere.
Plays and things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so let me go back through this chat here. So, firing up Windows 3.1 under DOSBox on a Mac to work with a Roland MT32 tools is so gloriously geeky. Oh, trust me, it is definitely, it's definitely that. Yeah, dancing. So Bill says he's used to counting time for dancing. So dancing definitely counts time. They count it differently. I'm not exactly sure why, but every time we've worked with dancers on stage, they're always counting 5, 6, 7, 8. We don't really have any 8-beat things that go on in the music that we do, but it's cool. Let's see. Oh yeah, so here's an interesting thing from the Deluxe Tux. So I looked it up. A slow drag is a kind of bluesy, slow-paced thing from Joplin's era. He wrote Sunflower Slow Drag. A one-step is a dance popular around the same time in 2/4 time. So 2/4 time is interesting because you could call it 2/4 time is really like march time, what they would consider march time. Some people also would use 2/2 time, which is considered cut time. It gets really, speaking of geeky, it gets really geeky and nerdy as you keep going into this. So let's see. Wait, are the places in the game real places? So Crimson, Ontario, sadly, is not a real place because I try to tag it on Instagram and it will not let me. Yeah, I've tried it a few times. It won't let me.
Oh my God, cool. Yeah, it's not a real place, but it's based in sort of a region, kind of like Lake Superior, northern area around there, is where I imagined it would be.
Lake Superior.
Yeah, kind of north.
Canada is actually, for those that don't really know the geography, is a gigantic country, but they only have about 10% of the population of the U.S., and they all, for the most part, live right at the bottom strip
Yep, like
near
90%, I
near the
think. Last I
border.
checked.
Yeah, but
Yep.
there's some cool TV shows. We were trying to identify this. I think the very first stream we did, there was a cool cop show that took place in kind of the Canadian wilderness somewhere.
It's either Northern Exposure or Due South or Due North or
No, it
whatever
was
it was called.
neither of
Due
those.
North.
It was some obscure show. I used to watch Hulu like 12 or 13 years ago when it was still free, and they had all these obscure shows on there. That's how I found this really cool vampire show from England that had Idris Elba in it way before he was kind of famous. So Nick,
Oh yes,
I forget the
Luther.
name of it. No, I don't think it was Luther. This is way before that. This is like in the 90s, I think it was filmed, or in the early 2000s it was filmed. So I like this. NHB 93. Nick says he's getting orchestra PTSD listening to the conversation about time signatures. Yeah, sorry, bro. Is that near like the Hudson Bay where Crimson is supposed to be?
I'd have to let me look at a map of Canada. I think of
Ultraviolet.
it more along like geological terms because it's sort of it's far north, but still part of the Canadian Shield, so it's not far north. So let's look at the map
So
of
Nick
Canada.
identified the Idris Elba vampire show. It's called Ultraviolet. Yes, it's awesome. It's like it's actually not even a show. I think it's a mini series, but it's awesome. You should check that out. I think it's maybe 6 episodes or something. And then one of the guys from did you ever watch that TV show Flash Forward? No? That was a weird one that was on like network television that started out with a real great kind of a bang, and they used the Bjork big band jazz song. I think it's Oh So Quiet is the name of it. Wow.
Right.
What a fantastic intro on that TV show that it is. Awesome. There was another one too. What was the other one I was thinking of? Oh, Kings. You ever seen the TV show Kings? There was an NBC show, I think, with Ian McShane, famous for the TV show Deadwood and other things. That had some of the most fantastic music and memorable music ever to me on a TV show, and they canceled that dang show real quick.
Yeah.
One season. I don't know. Anyway, what does he say? Canada has a slightly better grasp of the metric system. So I'm one of those people that used to be like, oh, why would we need the metric system? And now having traveled, I've traveled a lot in the past 10 years with Sean Paul. If you don't know, I played keyboard for Sean Paul for the last 8 years in his band. And we've been to more than 60 countries, which is a lot. And the metric system is just better. There's just no two ways about it. I'm sorry. Base 12 makes no sense. Base 10 makes a lot of sense. They've been talking about changing it here for years. It would be nice because we're the only country using it. We're using an antiquated British system that doesn't even get used in the UK. So, but anyway, enough about that. We don't have to hate on anybody or anything like that. So let's see. Let me go back through this. So what does he say? Julia, you say, you're far north, and I have to remind myself that you're in Toronto. Everything is far north for you.
Yeah.
DJ Megahammer? Well, no, she's not that far north. She's right, probably.
Well, for me, everything is compared because I'm like
You're on the
southwestern
border.
Ontario.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was gonna say you're probably about the same latitude as I am, I think.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Something like that. Close enough.
Yeah. Roberta, this is part of my musical process. All this chaos, just like you guys, that if you go to a job and you sit and like your mind wanders into something else, that's how my composing mind works. I can't always compose these pieces in one sitting. Sometimes it takes a few. But in this case, at least in the case of, let's go back to this real quick. At least in the case of the theme, I think I composed the majority of the melody of the A section in one sitting. I did the B section in another sitting, and then I just went through and tweaked it and put the harmony in and put the other instruments in. And I decided that if you look at this, let's see. I decided that there should be percussion. You can see in this track, if you're not on a phone, you might be able to see it. I decided that there should be percussion in the second half to kind of give it a little bit more variation, because I wanted to use the same melody twice, but I needed some variation to kind of change it up and not have the same thing exactly play twice, because then it's just really half the length and a loop. So anyway, the Mandalorian.
So what was your inspiration for that one, for the theme?
This particular song, if I had to guess, I would say still the Weeping Willow. Even though it doesn't really sound like it, it just, that, for whatever reason, that piece comes to my mind as something so signature and memorable that I wanted to have something very signature, very singable, very memorable, catchy, but ideally not annoying. It's tough.
Ideally.
You know. Yeah. Oh, Commodore Brandt says Journey on PS3, PS4 is also a game that revolves around music. Yes, that's Austin Wintory. And that's that guy's kind of like, I feel like he's like one of the cats that everybody looks to right now, is like, you know, one of the hottest composers in the game music industry, I think. By the way, I don't know if he's here this time, but we had another one of the hottest composers in the game industry in the stream last time. He's Busta Tunes on Twitch, and you should check out his channel. His real name is Will Roger, and he's a composer. They just put out DLC for Mortal Kombat 11, and I think he's either the main composer on Mortal Kombat 11 or he's one of them. But he's done a ton of music for that game, and it's fantastic and amazing. And he talks on his stream like way advanced stuff. It was over my head, so it was awesome, but it was over my head too. So anyway, these are the little things that I'm trying to think about when I'm working on these pieces. And yeah, I mean, I'm trying, I guess in a game like this and in a situation like this, I'm trying to create something that's really memorable and catchy, so that it's almost like you're listening to music while you're reading or studying in a way, because it's a text parser. So it's not really classical music, but it's classical influenced, I guess, because it's that time period. And I think it just gives you, my idea is that I want you to be into the game. Like, I want, as a player, the same way Julia wants the art to draw you in and the story to draw you in, the first thing you do is you're going to see an image immediately and you're going to hear the music. So those two things, we got to like catch you right away. If we don't catch you right away, what are we doing? You might as well play something else, right? And there's a million games released every day. So that's our idea, you know? That's our intent.
Yeah, when I talked to Dan about what I wanted from the theme, because the theme is the most important song that we have in the whole game, because as Dan said, it's your first impression, that when you first launch the game, what you're hearing, what you're seeing, it sort of sets the stage for everything else that comes after. And so what I told him when he was making the theme is, I told him, I want to base the music around, you know, Canadian folk songs. It's a kind of an out of the way, far away place that's, you know, off the beaten path and away from civilization. And it's very, you know, wanted a Canadian sound. I wanted it to sound a little like a bit frontiers like, and not like Wild West frontiers like, but like a settlers, you know, finding a new place to settle, and how there would be hardship and there would be uncertainty. And it kind of also is the same thing that Nancy does when she goes up north from Toronto, is she's going to a place where she's not sure what to make of it, and she has to sort of decide how she's going to behave and what she's going to do when she's in that area too. So I wanted there to be a feeling of adventure and kind of, you know, uncertainty, maybe some curiosity too. So I wanted the theme, I'm not going to say it's supposed to represent the character, but I wanted it to embody some of her characteristics. And I wanted the music also to embody the setting at the same time, because those things are very much tied together. and I think that's pretty much all I asked Dan. And I also, I was playing on the art streams, the Great Canadian Tune Book, so I sent him those as examples of songs that I, had been using just as placeholder music, to give my idea of what
Oh no, did we lose
a lot of
Julia?
them.
Oh, there you go. You're back. You're kind of
Uh
jumping in
oh,
and out. No, say what you just
what
say
part did I?
your last sentence maybe. Your last two
Okay, oh,
sentences.
the Great Canadian Tune Book. I sent Dan the midis, and I've been playing them in the background of my art streams. And the Great Canadian Tune Book is MIDI versions of Canadian folk songs, so MIDI arrangement. And so I sent him those two to give him an idea of what Canadian folk tunes sound like, because they do have a bit of a sound that's quite similar to each other, and the way that the time or whatever the technical parts are, they have similarities in that. And I think I also mentioned I wanted to be folk music in that the instruments that I want to hear or that we could potentially have sound like the instruments on the Roland MT32. I didn't want them to be like stuff that you wouldn't necessarily hear like with that settlers might have. Like I wanted like maybe fiddle or maybe some sort of flute or clarinet. Keep it very simple because they wouldn't have like this big band kind of sound. Like they wouldn't have a lot of arrangement.
Right.
But from there, I wanted it to have have a just a nice feeling when you start up the game. You want that idea of everything that it's going to be and what you can expect.
Yeah, and I think there's a couple of interesting takeaways there. So when I'm working with Julia or John Romero or whatever, my job is to get into their head, right? So they have clear or hopefully clear ideas of what they want. Julia's a different example because this is the first game she's ever designed. John has designed 100 and something plus, 150 plus or something. So they're going to have different ways of speaking, but my job is the same. It doesn't change. My job is to try to get into their head and make something that they're just going to like right away, right? I don't want to have to go through revision after revision after revision after revision after revision, which does happen from time to time. It hasn't happened here. But it does happen with some, not so much games in my experience, but in, doing pop music or doing music with artists, I've gone through a lot of revisions. So the other thing I think that's really important to think about is I took the key of the other song that she had, at least I think I did. Maybe I changed it eventually, but I think I took the same key as the original song because I wanted to kind of to have some semblance, reminder of that original song for Julia when she heard it for the first time, because I didn't want her to say, wow, this doesn't make any sense. This doesn't fit my game at all. What I did was I said, okay, let me be smart about this. What happens with a lot of people in television and I think games and TV commercials, they'll use music as like a placeholder music and they'll get attached to the placeholder music.
Mm-hmm.
So they call that demoitis, at least in my thing. So demoitis is what I wanted to hopefully avoid, because sometimes that happens where they're like, oh, we're just using the demo. But in this case, I was like, all right, let me take some pieces so she's at least reminded of what was there and it doesn't take us out of where we were before. Because if I made a theme that was totally off the wall from there, what am I even doing? Why would I do that? She has something she thought about carefully, put in the game, and I'm just going to go change it completely and throw it out the window. No, I got to take the influence of it at least a little bit, do my own thing and do something original, but at least allow that influence to creep in, because if I don't do that, then it shows her that I'm ignoring her as a game designer, which is not a good thing. Even if I think I have a better idea, it's still, it's up to her, right? If Julia decides I'm not going to use any of this music tomorrow, that's it. Doesn't matter. It's very possible. What this is Amiga Bill demoitis, dude. It happened. Oh, because Amiga Bill works in television, as his day job is doing some kind of TV. I'm not too sure exactly, but I know he does a lot of filming, I think. So yeah, demoitis. If you're doing like a TV commercial, They put in a trailer song, like a track or whatever, and they'll just stick with it because they got used to it. So you got to try to avoid that as much as possible. You know, Kirby syndrome. I don't know what is.
And the demo track does contain information. That there's a reason why, you know, I would give that as an example because yeah, there are. I don't know anything about music. I don't know the terms to use. I don't know about timing and chords and any of that stuff. So when I give, when the only way I can as closely communicate what I want, besides just using words, is to show them a piece of music that I feel like fits what I'm looking for. So in a way, it's kind of trying to speak for me about what I want to actually hear when I don't have those words to communicate that.
Yeah. So we're trying to give a little bit of story as much as we can in a song that doesn't have words, right? It's tough. The theme from Taxi was a piece written for a dinner scene in an early episode and somehow got used for the show's theme, and always feels so out of place watching a taxi driving on the bridge in the opening. I got to watch it again cuz I don't even think about it. Yeah, the same for commissioning art. See, I'm
Yeah,
sure that's the
therefore, yeah.
case. I don't know, but you would know about that.
Yeah, I was gonna mention that because yeah, for instance, if a client comes to me and they, and it's a new client that I haven't worked with before, I'll sometimes ask them, well, what of my pieces that that you like the most, or what brought you to the site and everything like that. And then so I'll look at the pieces that they like that I've done, and I'll see what's in common with those pieces, and I'll try to bring that, even if it's extremely subtle and abstract and almost subconscious. I try to take the things that I see in common from those pieces and try to put it in the new piece so they feel like they're getting what they like and what they expect from the portfolio. So that's definitely a thing.
So this will fit right in with what you just said. NHB93 says, "Isn't the story that Kirby, the character, was drawn as a placeholder and the team fell in love so much that they kept the little pink ball guy?" I mean, I could see that. It's not a complex drawing, right? Certainly not in the early games. I could definitely see that. I mean, there you go. That's 100% the example. Amiga Bill is telling us the same thing. Who else is telling it? The Dave War is telling us the same thing in art. It's the same thing in TV, movies, commercials. I think it's especially true in television because like the directors are sitting there like and they have to make stuff a lot, not always a lot faster. In a movie, it's a shorter. Sorry, a movie could be a long period of development time. Like a game, what's the average game development time? 3-4 years, I would think, for most games, whether they're AAA or indie. I mean, if they're smaller games, they can be made quicker. But like, I think Empire of Sin is around 4 years, 3-4 years, something like that. Oh, there you go. My favorite demo-itis story is when Stanley Kubrick decided to keep the placeholder music in 2001: A Space Odyssey. He never told the original composer, and when we went to the premiere, he's in for a big shock. Jeez, yeah, and there you go. And that's what it is. So I think it happens more in TV than in games because in games you aren't always looking at the game all the time, whereas in television and movies you're literally looking at the stuff. Well, in Bill's position, he's looking at it all the time. Like that's all he's looking at. He's probably not spending a ton of time on scripts, but he might be. But in documentaries and commercials, I mean that stuff is just probably that stuff's got to be out quick, quick, quick. Yeah, John Romero. No, he's in his early 50s, believe it or not. He's just
Wow.
he's just a beast. And he'd released I think he said Doom was like his 80 something
Oh my
game
goodness.
released. So he already knew about it. And Brenda started in 1981 and John I think started in 1979. So some of those games that they did were small. Well, not Brenda so much, but the games John did were small. Like they were literally written for a magazine. So he wrote the code for the game, published it in a magazine. You would buy the magazine, and then you'd type the code into your computer, and you would get the game running. So that was kind of how it was done back in the day. Apple II stuff, I think. But yeah, so I mean, you think about it too. Like John was doing stuff where he's working on multiple games at once. I think he's always been doing that. So that can kind of help the development. And the difference between John and Julia's just her. So there's there's not a gigantic team at Romero Games, but it's a significant number of people that are working on Empire of Sin. So it still takes 4 years. The scope is different, right? It's a 3D game. It's a strategy game. It's all kinds of different stuff. So wow, all the classical music was placeholder music. I don't think they used any of the original composer stuff except Ligeti's Beyond the Infinite stuff. So Ligeti was the original composer? Interesting. It kind of makes sense, and that if you start to talk about music like that, then you get into atonal music. I don't think you could do a lot of atonal music on the MT32 and have it be very convincing.
Yeah, it's a limited instrument, let's just say.
It's limited, and it also signature. So like all of us that love these old games know it from Sierra for the most part. Sierra games, maybe Monkey Island, maybe some of the if you played, it's doubtful you played X68000 games unless you were living in Japan in the 90s or late 80s. I guess I'm not even too sure how the MIDI stuff works on Amiga. I know it was more difficult because it didn't have you must have had to have some kind of box, and there wasn't a lot of stuff made for MIDI on the Amiga because it was using mostly samples and mod style music. But let's see. The Settlers for Amiga and PC had music composed by Heiko Ruttmann of MIDI MT32 GM in this case. So yeah, the Amiga definitely had times when it sounded way better. We played some examples of it last week. If you want, or 2 weeks ago, if you check out Julia's YouTube, you can see the previous streams that we've done, and I think they're pretty cool. They actually lend themselves well to YouTube because we're kind of really dedicating a subject as opposed to just kind of random streaming. We have kind of somewhat of a plan anyway. But yeah, check those out. Yeah, when you prick up the wrong sound card at setup, it sounds almost atonal when a hi-hat triggers a note on a piano. You know what's interestingly about that is that the MT32 is not set up very well at all to do MIDI composition on. And we talk about that a couple of weeks ago. It's just really not it's really not fun. But I don't know. Could you do atonal music? I guess you could. You could do some, but it sounds a little cheesy. So atonal means that it doesn't have a key center. Like this is in the key of E, right? Or how's this song go? So that would be tonal music. Atonal music generally doesn't have a key center. So the song might be you can do it, but I don't think you can do an entire MT32 atonal game would be rough. Whereas in movies it works really well. And it started, I want to say in the 40s with a guy named Arnold Schoenberg. He's the guy that really kind of started atonality, and it's a big thing in horror movies, movie music and things like that. So I want to check out this Settlers Amiga music. This is pretty cool. Yeah. So let's see. Peek behind the curtain on the text parser. Ooh, that would be interesting.
I don't know if it's as interesting as you might think.
Let's see. I like the analogy of the palette in visual art. A musical key is like a small palette of notes that go together. Atonal is using every color equally. Well, it's not necessarily. I think 12 tone is what you're referring to, using every color equally. But even then, sometimes they have almost key centers. So, like, you can use clusters. You can't really see it. Let's see if you can see this. No, you can't really see it too well, but you don't have to use all 12 notes equally. You can use them and still get atonal music that way. But I think it's more suited to games that have more complex orchestration than MT32. Something like, a movie, a horror movie especially. I can't even think of good atonal game soundtracks at the moment. I'm not even sure that there are any that are all full, you know. Deluxe
Yeah,
Tux
I think.
says Deluxe
Oh, go
Tux
on.
says he shows up to streams where Francisco animates walk cycles for like 3 hours. He does.
Which are awesome, by the way,
He
too. I
does.
show up to those too when I
I do
can.
too.
Um, yeah, that I think that atonal would be better for like a horror thing, because it sounds like everything is disordered and chaotic, and it's very unsettling to hear. The Crimson Diamond is kind of like a cozy mystery, so we want to have even at its most dramatic and scariest, I still want it to feel like you're curled up with a mystery book, by the fire, and with like a warm, hot cocoa or something. I want it to be um, kind of comforting in that way that those old mystery novels were. So it is the feeling I'm going for. So I know with the eavesdropping music, which I don't know if Dan's gonna play next, but with the eavesdropping music, I've been telling Dan we need to dial back like the tension,
Yeah.
because he did a really good job at making a really tense track. But I think it's a bit too scary for what we're going for. We want it to be, curious and less tense.
Mystery, but the mysterious element has to be very light, I guess. Because if you go too mysterious, then it's like there's too much happening at the beginning of the game. So we have to.
Yeah, like that's another consideration for there will be like a narrative arc where things do ramp up.
Yeah.
And so we need room for that to happen
But
too.
not in the demo.
No,
So much.
no.
There's plenty in the demo, but we got to save some for the full game, which I think is going to be it's going to be a pretty significant size game. Like if you compare it to other games of that era, they're not. I don't think size-wise they're going to be even close. Like King's Quest 4 is not a super long game. King's Quest 3 is not a super long
Right.
game. I think this will be longer than all of those. But anyway, no, I'm not going to go into that because we're already 2 hours into this dang stream. Well, I was actually thinking that maybe you could share maybe a little bit about what you're going to be doing next week, because I think.
Oh, sure.
Let's see if I can get just. There we go. That's mostly just you.
Mostly just me. Okay, cool. Yeah, so a few weeks ago, before my second art stream, I put up a poll on my Twitter about what people would want to see in the next art stream. And what I'm going to be showing next week for my art stream is what lost in the poll. So something to look forward to.
It shouldn't have lost, and you're going to see why in a second.
Okay, so hold on. I'm going to do a screen share. Hold on. I'm going to set this up first. So that's okay. One moment.
More pixels.
More pixels. Okay, I'm going to go into the screen shareness of this screen share. Okay, so what I showed at the time was, hopefully that showed up.
Yep.
Did that
Original
show up?
versus EGA demake, the consuming
Right.
shadow. Yep.
Yeah.
Works.
So this was what I showed. So this I did just for funs. This was something I did a while back when I was playing Yahtzee Crowshaw's The Consuming Shadow, which is sort of like a roguelike Cthulhu-based kind of an adventure game, but not really that deep of an adventure game. It's a really cool little play, and it's still on sale, and you can buy that just about anywhere, I'm sure. And so what I did was I did sort of an EGA version of some of the screens, and you can see that with this one. Here's another one. There's like a driving interface, so I kind of redid the car.
Which looks better in EGA.
Oh, well, thank you. Here's another screen. And so what I did also is when I was designing these, I kind of tried to make slight improvements, I felt, to some of the interface stuff, because what happened with Yahtzee's version of the guns and ammo.
Sam Taki points out the questionable gun position.
I know. Hey,
Maybe
I'm just,
you
you
don't
know what?
know.
Mine looks better.
How do you know if
Okay,
it wasn't
mine.
purposeful? Maybe that's part of the game. I don't know.
It's not. Okay. But yeah, so my issue with these with the way the ammo was done here is you couldn't see the levels of your ammo if you were just on your selected this weapon. If you switch, you had to switch to these other weapons to see your levels of ammo. So I changed that in my version here. But anyway, and here's another one. Just this is like very much not even a reconstruction. This is just me completely redoing something where I just did like a nighttime scene. So I did that, and then so what I did was, as a means of example for the EGA demake, is I was asking people about modern games that they might want to see demade. And so, of course, I had to pick something that is the hotness nowadays. Everyone seems to be playing this, but I'm not. I don't have a console, so this is as much as involved with Animal Crossing. Is it called New Leaf? Animal Crossing New Leaf?
I'm not too sure. I've never played it either. It's not for me.
Yeah, we don't know these things. Okay, so this is. So I'm gonna walk. Oh, what's going on? Oh no! Don't do that. Hold on. Give this a second. We're gonna give it a chance. Oh, come back.
Double me.
Okay, hold on.
As much as I love seeing myself, I don't.
Okay, yes, Animal Crossing New Leaf. Yeah, let me just. Sorry, I don't know why. My 8-year-old Surface Pro 2 sometimes likes to have a bit of a
Tell
break.
me when you think you got it. I'm going to give them the Making the Crimson Diamond Live Painting Pixels ad.
Okay, yeah, I'll let you know. Let me get back there.
Hey, Big Dan, give Small Dan a high five. Oh, that's funny. Okay. So Amiga Bill is talking about, with Commodore Brant, they're talking about the number of voices and sound channels in an Amiga. And the sound chip has 4 channels. But the interesting thing about those 4 channels is you can use samples. So you could get a lot of sounds per channel if you really wanted to. You don't really have to be restricted to using, say, like, 1 or 2 things at a time if you're using samples. So you can get pretty crazy. And the Commodore 64, that has the SID chip, which is kind of a legendary synth chip that people were ripping out of those machines for a while to make these SID station boxes. I have a Commodore 64 here somewhere, and I have a couple of Amigas here. I gotta eventually break one of them out and do some composition on it at some point. Amiga Bill, I promise I'm going to. The problem is, believe it or not, despite not having any shows to play, I'm still like stupidly busy with the amount of work that I'm doing for the games, and then also just life, because I have a small infant at home, and that takes up most of my time. That's the way it goes. But
I see Amiga Bill asked also what program I'm using for the pixeloid in the game, yes. And I'm using Adobe Photoshop CS2, good old CS2, and it's ready. I'm ready, Dan. I'm back with the Photoshop.
I'm still doubled up, so I'm gonna try to give Big Me and Small Me a high five.
Yeah, good old CS2. I'm still.
See you.
What's that?
We aren't seeing you.
Oh, you know what? I have to go back to screen share. Yeah, give me a second. I don't know why there was. It just, I guess when Adobe Photoshop decided to dump itself.
There
okay.
we go. Yes,
how is that?
That's awesome. Perfect.
Okay.
So check this out, Amiga Bill, because this will explain at least about how this part of the process goes.
Yeah. So there are a few different ways to go about this. You can do this process, or you can just. Sometimes I'll just draw, because if you just rely on the filters that Photoshop has, it's not going to be perfect, and sometimes it just makes a bigger mess than you would on your own. But so yeah, I'll start off with a screenshot like this, and then I will downsample it to 320 pixels wide, so that we get that blockiness that we're so used to seeing with EGA. Because EGA is just the color palette; it's not really a resolution, but those two things are so tied together in our minds that if you see an EGA piece that is not 320 by 200 pixels and is a much higher resolution, it does look very strange, at least to me, because I'm used to seeing it at much lower resolution. So from here, after I've downsampled, I'll really up the saturation and the contrast, and that's to help differentiate some of the shapes. It's not perfect, but that's how I start. And with the saturation, what happens if you don't oversaturate and then you go to the EGA palette, everything ends up being brown and gray, and EGA is much more colorful. So I try to force that a little bit in this way. And next step is, so we shifted into EGA. So this is what it looks like. Just in EGA. And can you see me? Is everything okay? I mean, can you see the thing and hear the thing?
Yes, we can't see you, but we can see
okay,
the Animal
perfect.
Crossing. Yep.
Perfect. Okay, so this is what it ends up looking like. I mean, maybe if I played with some of the settings more, I would come up with something that I could start with that's better. But I find I'm drawing and redrawing a lot of this stuff anyway, so I'll use this as a starting point. But you can see, there are issues here. Like there is. Hold on, I'm gonna just use a color here. Oh, does it not like it when I do that? Okay, so you can see with this, there's a signpost. Oh no, I'm scared. Okay, there's a signpost here. And it doesn't look like much. I mean, you can clearly see it's a signpost in the original, but by the time you've taken it through all these processes, it kind of, you just don't really see a heck of a lot what's going on there. And that's just a consequence of putting, slapping these processes on it, and the computer's just taking each pixel and deciding what it needs to do. It has no idea that that's supposed to look like a signpost. And so what happens is I have to go in and I go in and I redo a lot of that stuff.
Boom.
Yeah, so what I'll do is I know what the bridge is supposed to look like. I know what that signpost is supposed to look like. So what I'll often do is I'll have them side by side. I'll work on the EGA and then I'll look at the actual high resolution image again just to bring back those shapes.
I think you got more fans, as if you didn't have enough already, but I think you got more fans.
Love it. Love it. Yeah, so what I did was, and you can see there's quite a bit of dithering here. I think that in a lot of EGA games,
can you quickly
especially
explain dithering though before you? Can you quickly
what's that?
explain?
Oh, dithering. Sure. Yeah. So dithering is these combinations of colors here, these checkerboard patterns you see. And what they do is they give you the illusion of extra colors. When EGA is a 16 color palette, that's all you get. And in order to fake more colors, you need to, do this checkerboard effect. And it looks like a mess when you get really close. But when you zoom out, it actually can resolve itself quite nicely. And what's cool about EGA is when you look at it from this distance, you think, okay, well, you get the effect that I'm trying to go for. When you zoom in, you can see what actually is happening in there, and you can just see where that magical optical illusion is happening. And the trees are another thing. So what I did with the trees here is, you notice with just the pass of that, you see the leaves become a bunch of blobs. But I know from looking at the source file, I can see the shape that those leaves are supposed to be. So moving from one to the other is I try to eyeball where those are and try to recreate them in the EGA color palette. So it's actually I've done sort of my online avatar is an EGA portrait of myself. And, some people think, well, maybe, it's easy to do because if you have Photoshop, you can just shove it, you can downsample it and shove it into that EGA color space and it's going to turn out. Well, it's not going to turn out. You're going to need to do a lot of work, especially if it's a more complicated scene like this. You're going to need to know what you're looking at more than the computer knows, because the computer doesn't really know what it's looking at. And you need to interpret what that looks like to break down what the depth would be as well. So you can see what I've done with these in the background. I've kind of added this dark cyan, this dither to them to sort of give a sense of like atmospheric perspective, to push those back even more than the original. The original was here. So you can see there's a suggestion of depth. When you put it to the EGA color palette, you can see it's there, that gets completely lost. So my job is to actually go in and know what was intended in the original and then try to recreate that with the low resolution and with the limited color palette.
Yeah, I agree. The Deluxe Tux, that waterfall looks ridiculous. It's great.
Oh, it's actually what I did the least work on.
Really? Looks great.
But yeah, I was mentioning before, a lot of EGA like games that were action games didn't actually use dithering. So I know that this game, I don't know a lot about this game, but I know, you move freely in a 3D space. So probably there actually wouldn't really be dithering in this game. because dynamically dithering, the depth of something is really not going to work out. But that's not really what I have to think about when I'm just making one single screenshot.
So why'd you pick the most complex screenshot you could find from the game?
Well, I don't know. I just did a very cursory look, and I liked the composition of this one, and so I just kind of went with it. But I thought the composition actually was nice because it does give you that sense of depth and all that.
You're really not missing anything from go back to the main one. Yeah, I mean, what are you missing?
Well, I kind of took out this shadow that's in the bottom here because it
just didn't work.
I just didn't, it didn't. It could have, but I mean, there's nothing really there to show, so I kind of left that out.
Right.
Most of it's there. Yeah, so as a screenshot, it just works on its own. But yeah, like I wouldn't, if I was going to make an EGA version of Animal Crossing, which I would never do, but I mean, I would remove the dithering.
Would you do that in Unreal Engine or something, or
Unity? Oh, it would be a nightmare. Oh, thanks, Amiga Bill says my version looks better.
What did he say? Oh, he said, is there a specific reason for using CS2?
Oh, the specific reason is because I don't want to go to the cloud service. And I've been using CS2 ever since college, and I'm super used to it. Although if you watched my last art stream, I'm still learning things with CS2. I just learned about the non-anti-aliased eraser tool, having used the program every day for 15 years, probably more. Which is funny because I was thinking about that and discovering pixel art in the first place kind of kicked off the Crimson Diamond as a project, because I didn't know how to do pixel art in Photoshop until I discovered this pencil tool, which is this tool you see here on the toolbar. Because the tool
we actually can't see the toolbar, but
you can't. Well, anyway, there's a toolbar. So anyway, the tool tip, you can see this beautiful non-anti-aliased brush. It gives you just these nice jagged lines versus the paintbrush, which is this one. Ugh. Right? It's just awful. It's the worst. So when I learned about how to use that, brush, I immediately started thinking about pixel art. And so that kind of started the journey, is me discovering the non-anti-aliased drawing tool. And just last week, I discovered the non-anti-aliased erasing tool. So it's come full circle.
It's crazy.
But so what I'll do is on Twitter, what I'm going to do is I'm going to even ask you guys too. You guys kind of get first dibs because you're the first ones to see this. I'm going to be asking for suggestions of what you'd like to see me attempt to EGA demake on my next week's stream. So next Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern time, I'll sort of walk through the process from beginning, not to the end, because I probably won't get to the end in the amount of time that I stream, but from beginning to going through those settings in Photoshop, and then starting in on this EGA process.
Wild. Yeah, that's really cool. I think you got to share this image on Twitter, because I think people are going to be like, wait, there was an MS-DOS version of Animal Crossing?
Yeah, I'll share it on Twitter tomorrow. I'll share it on Twitter and say, hey,
cool.
Like my Babbage's mail order catalog. I ordered this the other day, and I got the diskettes, and I've loaded this thing, and it's called Animal Crossing.
Oh my God! You should make fake 3.5 disc with the Animal Crossing logo on it or something like that.
Oh, maybe. Well, yeah, cool. I could do like a little 4-image gallery or something. Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, here's my copy of.
Yeah, finally I've gotten a copy.
Yeah,
of that game everyone's talking about.
It's apparently it's difficult to get a physical copy of it.
Oh, I'm sure.
Fake game box. No, we can't do the fake game boxes, because that's been a problem. That's been a real problem in one of the groups on Facebook that I'm in.
Oh, really?
The big box PC game collectors. Yeah, we have a lot of people asking about faking big boxes, and the reality is that people are just counterfeiting, which is not cool. But anyway, that's why we have these, and all the stuff you see behind me,
Here's the actual working. You can see some of that dithering going on and off. Let's see if I can find. Yeah, the dithering tends to be the last thing I do after I've kind of worked out the drawing and all that.
Can I ask how long something like this would take you?
I didn't actually
time it.
like time it, but I spent like yesterday a few hours on it, and the day before a few hours on it. So I don't know, like 5 hours. I don't know,
I
something like
think
that. I guess.
that's pretty impressive that's all that took. This is the shareware version of Animal Crossing for
Yeah, I was gonna
DOS
say yeah, the soft disk
DOS
version. Yeah.
5. You can do DOS 6. It will run on DOS 6.22 as well. Well, there's actually Super Mario Brothers for Commodore 64 that was released recently. That was real supposedly impressive. And if you want to see another Super Mario Brothers that's impressive, the id Software guys, which was John Romero, John Carmack, Tom Hall, Adrian Carmack, they did a Super Mario Brothers MS-DOS. Like, they basically remade the first level of Super Mario 3, and they showed it to Nintendo. And Nintendo loved it and said, we're not going to use this because we only want stuff to be on our console. We don't want to port our games to DOS and stuff like that. And that is what led to Commander Keen. That engine or whatever
Oh,
whatever
really?
process, whatever process they got down led to Commander Keen. This is pretty cool. Pretty cool history. Well, anyway, we've been going for over 2 hours. And I think we've done. Well, I mean, I'm at the end of my mental ability, which is not much, but you know. So I think it's a good point to. Oh, there you are. You do exist. Okay, let's share. Okay, and I think this is a good stopping point. You guys have got to see a lot of pieces of the process where we're drawing influence from. Yes, it is told in the book Masters of Doom, which I have a really cool copy, Eden Wraith. Let me show it to you, as a matter of fact. There's a picture of, I think there's actually a picture of me and John when he came to my concert on his Instagram page. But he came to the concert with the family. Brenda and John brought their kids and stuff. It was great. And he brought me a copy of Masters of Doom. And he signed it. It says, "To Dan, thanks for being a badass and keep on dooming, John Romero,"
Oh, so good.
which I thought was really cool. And I've read it, and I was reading it on the tour bus when we were on tour in Europe last summer. Yeah, I'm a pretty consummate collector. I mean, at least I don't collect everything, but I collect the stuff I love. But yeah, guys, thank you so much for being a part of this, because without you, it's really just me and Julia on like a video conference,
Which is fine.
which is fine too. But it's like a party. It's like hanging out with a bunch of
Yeah.
friends. And right now, what better way to do it than this? You know what I mean? So I hope everybody stays healthy, and I hope you guys enjoyed this. And make sure that you tune in next week, 8 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Julia's going to be doing her art stream, EGAD make. No Beyonce, sadly, Roberta. And it'll be cool. And download the demo if you haven't of the Crimson Diamond on Steam or itch.io, whichever you prefer. And yeah, I mean, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed hanging out with you guys, and I hope you guys come back for the next one. And we'll keep you guys posted as to the development, and check the Twitter of me and Julia. We give a lot of information there, and also just hang out, follow us, follow Crimson Diamond, wishlist it on Steam if you haven't done that already. That's important. And I think that's it. Yes, thank you all for being here, and especially all that we've seen a couple of familiar names now. The last, what is this, our 4th stream together and 6th stream total or something?
Something like that. Something.
So it's nice to see you guys coming back and hanging out with us. It feels good.
It does.
Makes me happy. All right, guys. Thank you. Till the next one.